When was the last time you actually picked up the phone and spoke to an old business acquaintance, not for any other reason than to ask, how are you?
Not posted on a LinkedIn, not emailed, not WhatsApped, not text even, but actually spoke to someone.
Because in a world where everything is online, today's What One Thing goes completely against the grain.
Daisy Ferns joins us to talk about why building a business still comes down to one simple thing: talking to people.
So Daisy, hello, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So in a world where everybody's focused on social media, growing an audience, what's the next trend that's going to get me to go viral? Your one thing is the complete opposite of this, which is talk to people, which sounds very, very simple. But actually, in my experience, sometimes can be very, very hard. So just share a little bit around where that comes from and why that's your one thing.
So, yeah, it is really simple. And actually, you say it sounds simple, but it's not. On the kind of face of it, it is really simple. I think we should all be talking to each other more. So where did it come from is in the businesses that I've had over the past sort of 5 or 6 years. I think the key thing that has made them successful is just getting out there and talking to people. And I find so often that people, exactly how you said, in the advent of social media and everything being online, people hide behind dropping links and emails, and people don't just pick up the phone or arrange to meet each other anymore. So for me, it's really important, and it's how I've grown my businesses.
What do you think is preventing people from picking up the phone, from getting out there and talking to people?
I think it's this whole idea that we are sold that you can do everything, you can build a 6-figure, 7-figure business by being on social media. And some people do. Some people absolutely do that, and they make a huge success of it. But I think sometimes we kind of sold that dream, aren't we? So we just post and we post and we post, and we forget about the whole human element of things behind it, which is exactly as you said. It's talking to people, it's picking up the phone. It's even if we are on a keyboard and just typing out a message, again, it's just having a conversation with people rather than relying on an algorithm or as you said, Hayley, something going viral. And I think we become so reliant on technology and on social media that we forget about the human connection side of things.
Is it something, Daisy, that you've always done naturally? And was there a point where you realised, you know what, this thing is really making my businesses successful and it's really making a difference in my business?
Absolutely, 100%. The only time I ever got in trouble at school, Hayley, was for talking too much. So it's just, my mum's the same as well. It's just me. I am a talker. I build relationships with people. In a previous life, before I had my own business, I was a student recruitment manager at the University of Nottingham. And again, people used to say to me, I was so successful because I wouldn't just send an email and think, oh, well, I've not got a reply. I'd pick up the phone, go and arrive on the doorstep of a school with a box of donuts and just try and build those relationships with people. But I think it's something I've always done without actually realising it as a skill or as something that I did. I've just always done it. As I mentioned, I've had businesses in the past, and I started off actually in the kind of parenting space. And again, it's about building relationships with people, which is something that made that successful. And then turning that into a 6-figure business. People would say to me, you know, how have you done that? As you know what it's like, people want to know how you've done it. And I was like, I don't know really. I've just talked to people and they wanted to join my course or join my training program sort of thing. So I'd never really thought of it as lead generation, which is obviously what I do now. I've just always done it. If that makes sense.
So how would you systemize that? Because I suppose one of the things that we've got as small business owners is we all think that we've got an incredible product. And for the majority of us, it's, I've got an incredible product, but I haven't got people that are warm and receptive to talk to about that product. What is step one in the reach out? I mean, other than obviously turn up at business doors for some donuts, which must be a massive win.
Hey, it's still something you can do. It really is. So within our lead gen team, we kind of have a whole process that we follow. So it isn't, I know I said it's as simple as just talk to people, and it kind of is, but actually if you want to do it well, there is a kind of a system to it. And I think that people do have more warm leads in their audience than they realise. So if you look at anybody's, again, if we take social media, because it's something that most businesses do, even if you've only got 100 followers on Instagram or something, that's still 100 people that have actually chosen to be in your world and therefore have some sort of an interest in what you're doing. So it is about starting conversations rather than waiting for people to come to you and inquire, because I don't know about you two, but I get a lot more business from actually going out there and starting a conversation with somebody than I do kind of inbound inquiries. So it starts with that kind of personal outreach. It is then about asking the right questions, actually talking to people and nurturing them, qualifying them to see if they are actually right for your product or service. Because I know, Hayley, for example, you focus on more established business owners in your business. So, okay, you might have some questions that you ask to see if they are your kind of perfect lead, your ideal client. You're driving the conversation forwards. And you're not just saying, let me know, or dropping a link and leaving the ball in their court. You're actually kind of steering that conversation until somebody says yes or no, thank you, I'm not interested. So that's the whole process behind it. But it is just about starting with the people that are already in your world and have shown an interest in what you do. Does that answer the question? I've gone off on a tangent, haven't I?
Thought it was really good. I think where it leads me to is, I think we're all afraid of being that person when you turn up at a network meeting or you turn up at any kind of business event and they say, "Hi Daisy, how are you?" And you say, "I've got," and they say, "Right, okay, so what I've got is, I bet you, oh, how interested are you in AI?" And it's, how do we sit between, because I think we all do want to connect and become friends and build those relationships. At the same time, we want to qualify each other to see, is this the kind of person, maybe not even that I can sell something to, but that I could bring into my network and maybe, build that. How do we flirt between those kind of two worlds?
It's really hard, isn't it? It's really tricky because you don't want to just get so into the friend zone when actually this person might be an ideal client that you can never feel like you can sell to them and it becomes awkward. You don't want to pitch to somebody straight away. That's a big no-no. I think it is just about, I suppose it's just like how, if I think about somebody on the school run or something, I'm not going to go straight in and say, "Do you want to be my friend?" I mean, I might, but so that's the kind of whole pitching thing. But then do you want to stay in the small talk bit forever if you do actually want to be their friend? It's having the conversation, maybe talking about what you do, talking a bit about your kids or your dogs or whatever it is that's important to you. And then what I quite like to do is ask them more about what they do and who it's for. And then I can think, is this for me? And then usually it's reciprocal and they say to me, what is it that you do? And I tell them. And then what I find is I don't like to be too pushy. I don't like the whole really salesy selling. I like the conversational selling. And I feel like if you're clear enough in articulating what you do and who it's for, people that then want that service will come back to you. So if they are then in your world and maybe they are seeing your content or you're kind of commenting on their stuff or they're reading your emails or whatever, when they do get to a point of this is for me, they will come back to you. Or if you find actually, I'm running this day or something, you can go back to them and say, "Oh, I'm running this and I thought of you. Would you like to come?" Because you've already got that open dialogue, if that makes sense.
So what do you think stops people from doing this?
I think there's a few things. I think people think they don't have any leads or they don't have anybody to reach out to. Whereas I think for the most part, unless you live under a rock and you don't talk to anybody and you don't have any kind of online presence or email list or anything, that's not going to be true. In fact, I'd love to make a bet that anybody listening to this, anybody out there, could make a list of 20 to 50 people right now that they could reach out to. So I think it's people don't think that they've got people to reach out and start a conversation with or reignite a conversation with. I think people don't know what to say. And I would probably say to them, what would you say to a friend? You're not going to go straight in and pitch. You just talk to people. You say, how was your trip to wherever? Because maybe you've done a bit of nosing on their profile. You could say to them, if you feel bold enough to do so, "Oh, I saw that you opened my email about whatever it is. Is this something you're interested in?" It's just, again, remembering people are human and just talking to them. I think people don't have time, especially busy business owners, because it is quite what I'd call busy work, constantly being in your DMs, going back and forth on email. And it's just one of those things really though that you have to do, because if you want this pipeline of people ready to buy from you, the conversations that you're having now are going to be your sales in a month or 2 months or 3 months' time. So if you don't have that pipeline, if you're not constantly having those conversations, you either need to realize I'm not going to have the sales, or perhaps outsource to somebody. And that's where we would come in. We can do that lead generation for people. So I think time is a big factor. And I've actually got one more as well. I think people are worried about being pushy and salesy because we've all been burnt, haven't we, by the sleazy car salesman, or the gyms are really bad for it as well, being really pushy. I think we've all been burnt and we don't want to be that person. So we just avoid it altogether, or we avoid talking about our offer, or we avoid inviting people to things because we don't want to make it awkward. Whereas in actual fact, you're helping people if they've shown an interest in what you're doing.
I think that last point, I think, is probably in my head, that's the biggest one for me, because I feel like when you're being genuine, so when if I'm, I don't know, I'm somewhere and I just start talking to somebody, I'm just talking to them because I'm in that situation and we've met each other and, whatever the conversation goes like. Whereas when I feel like you're doing it intentionally, I feel like there's something that just doesn't sit right with me. It's a really weird feeling. And I think that probably stops me, that people will know that I'm only starting that conversation because actually I want to generate leads and I want to grow my business. What would you say to that?
I've had this come up quite recently, actually. I think if you're doing something from a business profile and you're sharing your tips about your accountancy firm, you're not there to make friends. And I think that if people think that you're there just to be their friend, and it's not about not being genuine, because you're such a lovely person, Hayley, but it's about, can I help you? Isn't it? It's about serving them, but you're doing it in a nice way, but you're being friendly so that you can show them the kind of the true you and the service that they'll get if they come on board with you. You're not doing it just because you want to make friends with your 5,000 followers or whatever it might be. It's showcasing your business and showing what service they will get. And if you think of it like that, as in, I have this service to offer, I can really help you. It's reframing it, isn't it? It's not, I'm going to push this on you because I need to make money. It's, I've got this amazing service, I'm really good at it. Is there any way I can help you? And you're not going to go, well, I hope you're not going to go into somebody and just say, do you want to buy my thing? You're going to ask them questions. You're going to say, what sort of accounting service have you got at the moment and how are you finding it? And if you're getting the answers that say to somebody that are indicating that somebody could be a potential lead, you can say to them, would you like to have a look at the offers we've got? People can say no, can't they?
Okay, so you know me, I like this because it is a little Machiavellian, but I'm quite a big fan of Machiavelli. I'm not going to lie to you. So step one, we're going to drill into our LinkedIn, our Instagram. We're going to find 20.
Yeah.
How are we going to decide which 20 to 50 people we want to talk to? What's going to be our criteria? How are we going to kind of work that through?
Okay, well, first of all, if you've got more than 20 to 50 people to actually then whittle down, that's amazing. It's about knowing who your ideal client is, though. So this kind of, so we're doing the lead generation, but actually there is a step before that, isn't there? Because for somebody like me, we offer done for you lead generation, and it's fairly expensive because we do it all for people. So actually somebody that's just starting out, whose product is a £35 membership, for example, we're not necessarily going to be for them right now. So drilling down into who your ideal client is and knowing perhaps what business they're in, what job title they have, how long they've been in business. And these things are quite easy to find out on somewhere like LinkedIn. That's my new favorite platform, by the way. And then you can actually start to have a look through your connections and perhaps whittle it down and start those conversations. And actually, if you speak to 50 people, when you're starting the conversations, when you're asking the questions, perhaps only 25 of them will be your kind of ideal client. But you've got to actually talk to people. You've got to know who your ideal client is in order to work that out.
I love it. Okay, so step one, build up. Step two, look for 20 to 50 of those people within LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever we are. Step three, how do I build? Because I remember when I first spoke to Hayley, I just sent her over a contract and said, do you fancy signing this? And she said, who are you, Phil? And we ran a ground. So step three, how do we start building those questions, or how do we get, because I feel it's really tricky to go in loosey-goosey and say, hey, how's 2027 looking for you? As opposed to, hey, how many staff have you got? What's your, how much do you turn over? How do we bridge that? And what's the best format to do it? Is it email, LinkedIn? Is it a phone call?
I think it depends on where you feel most comfortable, where your ideal client is hanging out. So again, if we talk about LinkedIn, I wouldn't recommend just randomly sending a load of connection requests and cold messages, because that is the fastest way to turn somebody away, isn't it? And I don't know about you two, but I get so many like, hey, how are you? This is who I am. This is what I offer. Do you want to jump on a quick call? And that I'm just like, nope, don't know anything about you. You've not asked anything about me. No, thank you. So I think it's about building a relationship first and foremost. And some people hate that because it's like, no, I want a client now. You have to put the work in first, don't you? And sometimes you might have, and I'm not a fan of the kind of copy and paste scripted messages, but you might have like a rough question or two that you ask people to start off. And you start with that. And you can use a lot of data as well. And you can think, okay, I'm asking these kind of questions, but nobody's replying. You've got to then think, okay, that's on me. People don't like these questions. Maybe I'll ask something else and try that instead. So we can look at the data. Of course, everybody's a person. But, if we are sending 20 messages and we're getting nothing back, we've got to think that, okay, there's something there in my messaging that's not right. Why wouldn't you just go in then, Phil? I'm going to flip this round to you and say, why wouldn't you then just go in and say, how's 27 or 2026 or Q2 or whatever shaping up for you?
I found that when I did that, a lot of people responded, and then I just got absolutely overwhelmed with it. I started sending 10 a day.
Right. Yeah.
Then people responded, and then I was hoping that they wouldn't respond, I think.
You're like the anti-lead gen, aren't you? The complete opposite of lead gen. Please don't respond. I'm doing this because I feel like I have to, but please don't respond to me. So there you go then. So that first, straight away, as soon as you said that, I'm thinking that's very you, isn't it? And that's the kind of thing that you would ask, you would say to a mate, how's your Easter weekend been, whatever. And that is exactly what you should say then. And then when you start chatting, you can ask, what's your business? And most people will then say, okay, what's your business? And you then start to introduce what it is you do. So I might say to somebody, so we might have that conversation. And I might say to somebody, where do your leads come from out of interest? And you just kind of have a bit of a flow of how you would like that conversation to go. And it doesn't always go like that because people are humans.
So step 1, build customer profile. Step 2, we've got our 20 to 50 people that we're going to message. Step 3, we send them a relatively generic message, or do we dip into the profile and try and have a little tickle,
I'd always try and use, people's names, because even if I can't find anything to say, I might even say something along the lines of, I love those colours in your branding, just so that people can see that, again, I'm a real person, I'm not a robot AI type thing, and that I have actually had a look at what they're doing and something about them. Or you can say, I love that post that you put about whatever, or you can say, how's that project going, or something, because you're a human and it's about that human connection. It's not just copy and paste scripted. So there's going to be an element of generic to it, because how many greetings can you come up with? Probably not 50 unique ones, but if you're trying to look into people and be personable, then you can find a way to do that.
Do we have a step 4?
I would say step 4 then is to keep the conversation going. So ask thoughtful questions. What I really, really would advise people not to do is, if somebody says, oh, I'm interested in your thing, is don't just drop the sales page, or don't just drop your link and say, let's book a call. Here's my link. Because then you've kind of put the ball in their court and you've kind of lost control of that buyer's journey, essentially. It's like, what did I say to you yesterday, Hayley? I said, right, when are you free in May? These dates, kind of thing. I didn't just say, here's my link, book something in. Again, it's more human, isn't it? If I'm doing it for you, or if we're having the conversation back and forth, you're leading somebody down that buyer's journey. And people, in my experience anyway, like that you are doing that. You don't come across as wishy-washy as well.
Like that, I think we've got it. I think we've got the 4 steps to securing
there's actually 5.
The 5th, we go. Close the deal.
To it, Phil. I've got a whole formula. The 5th one is to follow up with people as well. So if people don't respond to you, that's fine. But don't just always think it's because they're not interested. People are busy. People forget. People need time to process. So actually just asking if people have got any questions, giving people a little nudge, little reminder. It's important to do that as part of the service as well. It's not that you're being pushy or anything. You're doing it as part of the service, so they know what to expect as well, working with you going forwards. So
I have a live example of this. So
Hey,
Phil and I started doing a bit of a what one thing implementation a couple of weeks ago,
I know
where
you
part of what we were doing was reaching out to people and following up on old conversations was one of the things that we had to do. And I did this. And it's probably over 12 months ago that I had a discovery call with this particular person. And I followed up with her again. And then she came back quite quickly and then nothing. So I did it again. And then now we've got a call booked next week. So it might not go anywhere. She's the person that runs a really interesting business. So I'm just really looking forward to having a conversation with her and a catch up about, she's done amazing things in her business. So I'm more interested in that than anything else. But it just goes to show that it does work. So Daisy, people want to get in touch with you. How do they do that? Where do they find you? And what kind of business owners are you looking to work with?
So I am absolutely loving LinkedIn at the moment. So come and find me on LinkedIn, Daisy Ferns, or Instagram as well. I am Daisy Ferns. We work with more established business owners, founders. I mean, I've got tips and tricks for everybody to come along and put into place. But if you're looking to outsource lead generation, typically we're looking for more established business owners, usually with a service of around £1,000 plus, but always open, like you, Hayley, always open to conversations with people and talking to people.
Thank you very much for joining us, Daisy.
Thank you for having me.
Wow. A really positive and, dare I say, kind of decisive what one thing that was. Really just straight down the line. What was your big takeaway, Hayley?
My big takeaway was the piece around that whilst you are trying to build relationships ultimately to grow your business, actually, you're coming from a place where you can really help people and make a difference. Because I know that the accounting services that we offer are different to other accountants. And I know, and I can factually back it up by people, not being big-headed, but I do know that we're different. I do know that we do things differently, and I do know that we're good at what we do. And actually, I know that business owners and businesses would benefit more from having accountancy services like we provide. Their businesses would be better, their lives would be better. And actually coming from starting to build those relationships from that point of view is a really big thing for me, because as I said in the recording, I feel a little bit ungenuine or unauthentic just starting talking to people, knowing that I'm only, I've met loads of great people along the way, and we've talked about networking and the impacts that's had on me and my life and how things have changed. But I still get that icky feeling when I'm typing a message to somebody. It still doesn't sit quite right with me, because I know that really I'm doing it from trying to grow my business point of view. But actually, that bit of a mindset shift is quite a big thing, that I'm doing it from I know that I can probably help you. And actually, being in your world and you being in my world, who knows where that can lead to. What was your big takeaway?
I think I'll agree with that. I think something that's really hit home to me more recently is the ideal client profile. And I think that it's a very intangible, tangible is building that ideal client profile. It's something that I've looked back into now and looked at our existing clients and had that terrible conversation of saying, I'm asking, what was your position before you started working with us? What do you feel the benefits of working with us has been to try and get that ideal client profile? And then I think, to your point, you're right. It's very tricky, isn't it? Because we do enjoy being friends and being social and building those social relationships. And I suppose as the mindset changed for me, almost like when we go into this network, it means we're seeing, do people enjoy, bowling? Because it's almost like a bowling club. So we know we know that we're good bowlers or whatever, and we're building friendships around that. But ultimately, it comes down to that core activity. So we're there primarily because we enjoy business and we want to grow our business and we want to grow their business. That isn't an opposition to creating friendships. It doesn't mean that we're disingenuous in wanting to build that business. And I think that's the grey area, isn't it? In the kind of Venn diagram where we want people who've got a great business and we want to be friends with them and we want them in that central piece. And I think it's getting that into your mindset, starting to do those initial approaches to people, see whether you are their ideal client profile, they are your ideal client profile, or if you fish in the same water. And I think it can be overwhelming, and it's maybe one of those things where it's consistency is always, other than send 70 messages today, better to do 5 a week, but do that follow up, put them into a CRM system. They don't respond, follow up in 6 months, as opposed to the automated blatter that we get at the moment where you get, hey, just checking in for the 15th time. I saw that you didn't send anything back to the 14th message. Is there anything that you're likely to change in your business now, Hayley, off the back of that conversation?
I think it's probably more about keeping up with some of the things that we've already started. As we've talked about, we've been on a bit of a journey about trying to start to do this ourselves, and it's been a bit hit and miss, I think, is my honest truth of that. But actually, when I have done it, it's always been positive outcomes. And the people that just don't reply or have just ignored you, well, have I lost any sleep over that? No, I've just, focused on the people that have replied and started building those relationships. And I think something that actually is really true to me is being a business owner is different than being somebody that doesn't run a business. And again, this is something we've talked about. I think you haven't, I feel like sometimes you call them something, but anyway, I can't remember. But the fact is that actually building relationships with other business owners that know the highs and the lows and the challenges and the ups and downs and all of the things that come with it can only be a good thing, whether or not you ever end up working together or not. So I think that's quite a big thing for me as a takeaway of all of this, starting conversations and, talking to people a little bit more.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think the tricky part is to be, certainly in our circumstance, our product, our services, aimed at a more, maybe not more established, but a growing or a growth business that's got employees, etc. So we want to be reaching out to those people. And maybe some of the results that I've seen are from not having narrowed down that ideal client profile and just reaching out to everybody and having a conversation. I've got nothing against people who make soap at home or who, whittle sticks and sell 3 sticks a week. Those aren't the kind of people that I want to speak to in regards to building my own business, in regards to my ideal clients. So I think maybe where I learned from this was that you need to put the work in to say, who do I want to talk to, rather than just sending out random messages because you connected or because there's been a like on your post.
And I think the thing to remember in all of this is, if you're in that business world, you're all in it. You all know that you have to generate sales and leads to have a business. If you don't, eventually your business is... I heard somebody said to me the other week, I can't remember who it was, they said, you're either growing or you're dying. And I thought that was like a great way to sum up your business. It's either growing or it's just declining and will eventually just become nothing. And everybody in that world is in that same boat. So and that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't stop building those relationships or that, like you've said, they're not authentic relationships. And I think that's something else that's really good to remember in all of this. And I had one more point that I can't quite remember. It's gone out of my head. Sorry. Completely gone.
I think you're correct. And I think the truly great people that we connect with will say, hey, Ailey, yeah, I got your chocolate bar. Look, I'm not interested in this type of business. Send me a message in a year's time, in 6 months' time, because it might click. People that we're probably afraid of talking to almost are the ones who go, why did you send me a chocolate bar? You think a 50p chocolate bar is going to... They're actually not our ideal client profile, and they've self-disqualified themselves doing that.
Yeah, but people don't really do that, do they? I think that's the thing. We fear something, but actually most people just ignore you. If they don't want to engage with you, they just don't engage. They don't give you a rant back or say, why are you messaging me? And actually, I think sometimes that's a little bit of a fear. The other thing I was going to say, I've remembered it now, is that sometimes it's really good as well to build relationships. And we've talked about this before with those business owners that are not, they've made it and they're doing multi millions, but like they're a little bit ahead of where you are, so that you're building those relationships. And actually, usually we always like to help other people. They're probably the same. So I think I think really the truth of what we're saying is we just need to get over ourselves and go and speak to people and not worry about it so much. That's really the takeaway, isn't it?
I completely agree. I think it's a great note to end on. And ask yourself, is your business growing or is your business dying? What are you going to change within your business from listening to this podcast today. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast today.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to What One Thing, and we hope you found one thing to help move your business forward. If you have, do us a favour, please like and share this episode with someone else who might find it useful.